gentlemen, welcome to how to successfully build and implement a fixed-fee pricing plan at your practice. I'm Matt Bunston, and I am ecstatic to have you all here today. We already have so many attendees. This is amazing. So as many of you know, today I'll be joined by a man that needs no introduction, the esteemed Trent McLaren from Practice Technician.
Hello, everyone. So good to have you here with us on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm excited. I hope you're excited as well.
Perfect. So just a bit of housekeeping before we get started into the webinar, into the meat and potatoes. We will be recording today's webinar and sending that to everyone as a follow-up over the next couple of days. So if you did enjoy it, please feel free to share the recording through your own social channels, and really just provide us feedback. We're always looking to improve the content that we deliver. So any and all feedback is welcome. Additionally, Trent and I will be being there, your presenters today, but we have the lovely Yusuf you just heard, and Victoria actually back in Toronto answering any questions. So if you do have questions that pertain to what Trent is going through on that particular slide, please feel free to ask them in the question and answer section on the GoToWebinar panel, and they'll answer them then, and we'll also have a bit of a session at the end to go through some of the more important ones. Now, finally, I did want to discuss kind of the genesis of today's webinar and the reason we are doing it. So we found there's a lot of great content on why moving to a fixed fee pricing plan is valuable, and not only that, but necessary in today's landscape. We have heard a ton of feedback about advisors just wanting a real tactical playbook. So this is really a joint effort between Hubdoc and Practice Technician to bring you that playbook, right? Bring you something that you can actually implement in the coming days and weeks at your own practice. So without further ado, let's hop into it. And we'll begin today with everyone's favorite, a poll question.
Yay!
So we'll just launch that right now, and that first poll question, you'll see it in a moment here, is how many bookkeeping clients do you have? This is just going to give us a bit of a sense of the audience, hopefully help us tailor the presentation a bit. Awesome, so we have around 70% voted. That's pretty good.
It's a pretty even split.
Numbers are climbing. Okay, so we're at 75. I think we can get over 90%. Come on, let's go.
Even split though, really interesting
really
to see.
Yeah.
Amazing, I love it.
Okay, we'll give everyone 2 more seconds to complete that poll, and we're gonna close it. Awesome. So what the split we're seeing is actually, so I'll share that right now. We're seeing 35% have 1 to 9 clients, 30% have 10 to 30, 28% have 31 to 99, and 4% with a 100 plus. So it is, yeah, pretty much even split across the board here. So that's super helpful. Thanks so much, everyone. Okay. So today's agenda. First, we'll be introducing the cloud accounting / bookkeeping business model. This will hopefully contextualize today's webinar for everyone. Second, Trent will be running through bundling services. So how do you describe non-recurring and recurring services, how you put them together, and how you price them. Then we'll be determining the time cost baseline of those very same services, right? Finding out the cost of a service and the margin so that you can price them as you move away from time cost. After that, we'll be going to discussing how to have that conversation with your clients, and specifically existing clients, the ones that will be more of a challenge to move from their current pricing model over to a fixed fee model. Finally, we will be discussing how to scale, right? Because this is why we're here, right? When time cost clearly doesn't incentivize you to generate profit, so the profit is always locked. So we actually want to discuss how that changes when you move away from fixed fees. So So with that, I will hand it over to Trent to get into it.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt, and just quick thanks to the Hubdoc team for working on this again together. We did a really good job of this with Canadian North American audience not too long ago, and we thought we had to replicate this again for the Australian audience, and I'm so glad to see we've got hundreds of you on here today. It's really amazing. But the inspiration, I guess, behind the webinar, we based it on Guy Pearson, and anyone who doesn't know Guy, he is the CEO and founder for Practice Ignition, on his accounting firm, which was Interactive Accounting. And basically, they were 100% from day one. They were 100% cloud only, using cloud only solutions. They were one of the first Zero Gold partners in Australia. This was back in 2008, and they basically adopted a fixed fee billing model from the get-go, but after studying startup software companies. And you might kind of ask, like, why would I compare my accounting practice to a software startup? But the reality is they have a repeatable business model, and it's no different when you start selling things like Hubdoc or QuickBooks Online or Xero or whatever it may be to your clients. You're now moving into a place where you're selling a monthly subscription, which has repeatable services that are exactly the same every single month. So now what we want to try and help you do is create a fixed fee model of recurring services that you're charging the exact same amount for every month, which then allows you to start building in your profitability and scalability on those services as we start to systemize everything. So you can see through the slide the growth that they had. So they were 7 years old. They went from 1 employee to 20 by year 4, 1 to 3 offices on year 4 as well, and then from $0 to $2 million in annual recurring revenue in the first 5 years. So if you're in that category, you're looking to grow and scale your firm, maybe you haven't quite identified fixed and recurring fees yet. Everything about today is based off a firm that actually did it. And it's a big part of what both the Hubdoc team and the Practice Ignition team fully believe in, that a cloud accounting firm should be doing, no matter where you are in the world. And that last part there for the interactive case study, they picked a niche. They went for high growth companies, high net worth individuals, and 100% cloud only. That was the 3 things they needed to tick off. So again, in your firm, you might be looking at niching and all those sorts of things. This particular case study did, and this is exactly how it turned out for them. But moving right along. So what is the cloud accounting bookkeeping business model? So I think it's fair to say we've all seen a lot of content on why we need to fix fee billing, why we need to stop doing time-based billing, and why it's important we start adopting different cloud technologies. That's not going to be the key takeaway from today. I know that a lot of you have already heard this and you don't want to hear it again. Well, and I don't want to tell you again. So that's the other side of it. You're here, you get it. It's time to start understanding the how. How are we going to do this? Not necessarily the why. I think the why has definitely been covered for the last couple of years, and it's important for us to dive into the how. So we want to look more about the fundamentals, what those traditional models look like versus what we think a cloud bookkeeping model looks like, and so forth. So what we're going to show you and provide some context around, why we recommend a fixed pricing structure, how it works to build a scalable model, and then just remembering when we talk about scaling, we are talking about building the most efficient firm you can. It doesn't have to result in monster growth. It just needs to be as easy as possible to bring on your next client. Okay, so just remember that for me. So the key components for a cloud business model, we broke it up into 3 clear components, which you can see on the screen, between value, costs, and then invoicing and payments. But again, coming into what's today's webinar all about, we're going to focus on how these components would work in a fixed fee accounting practice. There's adopted cloud technology to deliver these services. So when we get to the pricing side of today's content, I want you to do your best to keep these 3 components at top of mind at all times. What is the value? What is our cost? And then how frequently are we billing our clients for these? Because that's what's changing. That's the difference. We're talking about the value we're delivering. We're talking about what are our fixed costs on a monthly basis. And we're talking about how regularly are we billing our clients to help us then recover the costs and increase and improve our margins as we go. So I hope you're excited. Settle in, have a seat. Hopefully you've got your coffee.
Now, Trent, I just had a quick question. What is, of these 3 components, what is one that advisors typically underestimate?
For me, I think it always comes down to we don't always measure out our costs, and we don't always measure out the frequency of our billing and what that can do. And I mean, all three components, really, everyone underestimates all three because we're not talking about it or considering it, because everything we've done today has been based around how long it took me to achieve certain bits of work, which then determine how much I would bill the client. But because we now flip that on its head, because we're doing things on a monthly basis, we're using cloud technology, which means we're doing things at 10 times the speed or half the pace, nothing makes sense anymore. Because if I'm doing things at a tenth of the speed, but I still want to earn the full amount. It's not about how much time I spent doing something. It's based on the outcome I wanted to achieve with my client. I'm a big fan of the cost scenario because for me, pretend you're running a retail store, you've got wholesale pricing, you've got your retail pricing. Accounting firms need to do the same thing. If I figure out what's my wholesale cost, like at a minimum, how do I make money on this job? And then I can go, well, what's my cream? What am I making in between? Do I want to bump it by 30%, 50%, whatever it may be? We need to understand what our costs are first.
Perfect, thanks.
Cool. So the traditional model, and I really enjoy these graphs because I think it does a really good job of articulating the traditional model. So if you think pre-cloud, and hopefully everyone can still hear us, pre-cloud, this is what that model would look like. So traditionally hourly billing. So all of our costs were accumulated between January and July. August, September was when all the value was delivered as all the returns were completed or the new financial year was begun. And then all of the debtor days were running between October to December with all of our payments and invoicing, again, happening in different cycles. So this is generally what a typical scenario looked like for compliance work. And again, a big misalignment because you're only making money at one time of the year. And as we sort of know, these days, that's not a sustainable model if you start moving into cloud, because all of our costs will start to appear year long, year round. Back in this traditional model, we would look at and say, a 50 to 60 debtor days was considered to be a good benchmark. So the biggest takeaway you're going to see from this, that this particular model is not scalable, especially now as, again, we start diving into cloud-based technology.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the cost, compare that to the value, then adding in the payments at the very end, you can clearly see this enormous misalignment between the risk and reward.
Yeah, look, you're putting so much work up front, but then you risk not being paid at all. And the amount of stories you hear from people saying, oh, well, we did all this work, but we couldn't collect the fees from the clients, and then we have to write that off. And I think I saw a crazy stat not too long ago. It was 18% of all work in accounting firms has been written off year on year. So we spend all this time trying to track how much time that we spend on the work, and then we write off 18% of it anyway because it's all been misaligned and we didn't have a correct process set up in the first place.
Right. So like another question I had, which probably pertains to 30% of our regos today. Like, what do you mean by scalable? Let's say I'm a bookkeeper with 5 to 10 clients. How does scalability relate to me?
Well, look, this all goes back to the idea that scalability doesn't just mean massive growth. It's simply your ability to take on more work in the most efficient way. That's what we're talking about. So when time is the only method by which we value, is what value can be delivered, the only way to bring on a new client without impacting other client work was to hire more staff. So you think about it, you're capped at how much you can bill out every single week. You're capped at how much time because of how much time you have in a given week. So if I've only got 38 hours, 37.5 hours is the full-time worker in Australia. If you've only got 37.5 hours of working time, then the only way to earn more money based on a time-based billing model is to hire more staff. But that's ridiculous. That's not the way it is. And because of all the things we're doing with technology, automation, cloud accounting, and then all the other good things in between, like Hubdoc, like Practice Ignition, we're able to do things faster, which then allows us to spend more time in other areas. But that just shouldn't necessarily mean we're earning less. We should be earning more because we've got more time to work on more high value, important work.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. So now we take a step and we look at, the traditional model for a bookkeeping service. So we looked at compliance. That was probably more relevant for the accountants that were in here today. Now we're looking at the bookkeeping side. And again, your costs are a little bit more spread out. So you can see January to April in red. And then again, you think of all your BAS lodgements coming up. That could be quarterly, monthly. Some of you, it might be yearly as well. And then again, you can see the value is distributed throughout the year. with your debtor days following. So I think for bookkeepers, and I've always seen this, you have a more intimate relationship with your clients. You're adding more value week on week because you are working with them more regularly, more frequently. So, you know, this makes sense for me as to what a traditional hourly billing model looks like. But again, all of your costs are at different times of the year. The value is distributed at different times of the year. But more so from your side, because of all the automation and the technology coming in, it means that the amount of time you spend processing work is reducing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the quality or your input into checking the quality of the work, and that's what I encourage all bookkeepers to focus on. Focus on the quality of the data coming in. Don't focus on doing the data processing yourself. Moving away from this model means that you need to be able to maintain your revenues so that you're not decreasing the amount of money you're working per client, but then it's also giving you the ability to take on more clients and free up your capacity to work with more clients. That's what I would say on that part of it. Yeah. So now let's have a look at why hourly and cloud software don't work. If you didn't understand already, if you didn't know already, this gives you a really good understanding of why. You can see here right now, the red dots across the middle represents your costs. Your value is still between August and September if you're doing that compliance piece. And if you're in the bookkeeper, you remember your blue value lines before, again, dispersed throughout, but now we've got monthly costs attached to all of it. So our lost opportunity happens between, you know, January and July or anywhere on, and your debtor days is also throughout. So what we're saying is you've got so much cost happening every single month because you've bought into cloud accounting. You've bought into all these other subscription services and they're debiting out of your bank account or your client's bank account or whatever it may be. So this now means that we need to change the way that we position our fees and our services to our clients to help recover the cost of all of these cloud hourly, cloud monthly subscriptions. Yeah. So we need to align everything under a fixed cost as opposed to everything on an hourly billing. The true cloud model equals monthly value. And that's exactly what we're looking at here. So you can see that if we aligned everything so that all of our costs, our value, our invoicing and payments happen every single month, then we know that we can actually start to create sustainable, scalable business model. So to avoid carrying this cost year round, we start delivering value on a monthly basis. Cloud apps and their APIs provide you with the ability to do this easy, super easy. Part of the value prop here is the real-time financials that you can deliver, which then allows you and your clients to make better decisions faster. So that's the biggest thing we love about cloud accounting, is that because all this data is coming in daily, it means that we can report on it back to our customers daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it may be. It also then gives us the ability to start looking into the future based on what's already happened. So we know what's already happened for the last 30 days. I can start to scenario plan forward and say, well, hey, based on what's already happened so far, I think if you tweak this, increase your price, order more stock or whatever it is, you can start to make better decisions in your business. So because of all this wonderful technology, we become futuristic psychics. We can tell the future. Not quite, but you get what I'm saying. You can.
Well, no, it's true, right? I mean, you answered my question for me. I mean,
yeah.
What was the value that real-time financials deliver for small businesses? But it's clear, right?
Yeah.
It's immediate access to data allows you to serve your clients on an ongoing, recurring basis from anywhere at any time. Which,
Yeah.
You know, has changed it from a rear-view mirror approach to financials, you know, to ongoing, idea of how your business is functioning.
Yeah, like here's my crystal ball, have a look, and let's, pretend, what if I increase my price by $20? What would happen?
Right.
Based on all of my bills and
now, I did have a question about like invoicing and payments. It does sound easier said than done. How do you really successful firms operationalize invoicing payments?
So this was a good thing, and this is, a big reason why Guy created Practice Ignition in the first place, right? So if, again, to come back to the story, Guy built Interactive Accounting. They've been running for 7 years now. They're a multi-million-dollar firm. They did everything on cloud-based models. And whilst they were there, they discovered that they had their own gaps. They needed some form of system to be able to build out and manage this whole scenario. How do we collect all the fees from our clients on a monthly, more regular basis where it all just happens? So from when we initiate that relationship at the start, through the proposal, the engagement letter, whatever it may be, how do we then collect all of the fees as a result? And to be honest, the answer is that is what Practice Ignition is. It was built around that problem they faced. They then realised that every other cloud accountant in Australia, all over the world, is going to have the same problem as they adopt further cloud models. So again, without trying to sound like a shameless plug, that's exactly what Practice Ignition was built for. It was built for this specific problem, carrying it out, managing it, measuring it, and making sure that all firms have the ability to successfully roll this out with every client.
Well said.
So, moving away from hourly billing is better for you and for your clients. And you can see a couple of key points here as to why. For your clients, they get better service for the same cost, okay? That's the point, that it frees, the more you leverage the technology, the more you're able to spend more time with your clients, yeah, which means, and you're still making the same amount of money. It also gives you the opportunity to increase your revenue with those clients, particularly if you can display the value appropriately and they're happy to buy into that. The other side of it for them is the confidence in their trusted advisors as recurring services are delivered at a higher standard. So again, they want transparency. They want to know exactly how much their bill is going to be. I had a good chat with a friend of mine last night, and he said, well, you know, my accountant gives me, you know, it's $240 a month. He does all of our BAS for both my wife's businesses and our individual returns. You know, do you think that's a good deal? And I said, well, it depends. Do you think that's a good deal? It's, you know, do you value what he's offering? The thing I could see the accountant had done well is he's trying to break it down. He's trying to give his client a clear understanding of what the bill is. But that second part that wasn't quite there was, is this good? You know, could someone do it better for me or whatever it is? So, you know, there was another conversation that had to happen. But the client knew exactly how much it was going to cost him year on year, which means he could make better planning decisions. Now, for you as a firm, it means you get to deliver more efficient services with higher profits. So what that basically means for me is that you're encouraged to optimize and streamline all of your clients with technology, meaning you want to spend less time on it. So, you know, let the tech do the work. And I'm not that guy that's saying that you're going to automate everything with tech, but it will start to leverage things away. If it's 10%, 20%, 30% less on that client, that's 30% more time you can do either with that client or with someone else. It's also going to give you more opportunities for value price projects, and then you're no longer concerned with time and billing. Efficiency is prioritized. We don't want to measure our staff in 6-minute units of bloody time. Who cares about that? Well, it sounds crazy. Why do we still do this? Why is this important? It's not important. And you're teaching your staff the wrong behavior. You're teaching your clients the wrong behavior. You're telling your staff that it's more important that you know exactly what they're doing every single minute of the day than the quality of the work that they are producing. Talk about a traumatic, stressful environment. We just described it. Okay, so please, from the bottom of my heart, stop billing things in 6-minute units of time, please. And if you need help, we're happy to help. That's why we're here. And I say that with all wholeheartedness. We love everyone, I promise. And it's okay if you're doing that. The cloud business model with fixed fees. So again, we talked about those 3 components before, and we've brought them back up. So we're going full circle on what we've kind of started on. The most important component of the 3 is the value delivery. So in this scenario, we've already seen that it's critical the value is delivered, the client on a monthly basis in order for all of this to work. So if it's something simple that you can deliver, such as a cash flow report, then this will help you align all of your invoicing and your costs. So talking about the costs element, so in the middle there, if you can align all of your costs on a monthly basis, it means your business becomes more predictable. A friend of ours, Mr. Chris Hooper at a Codex in Adelaide, I had a good chat with him a couple of times. We've spoken with the team in the past. They pay all their vendors on a monthly basis. So, you know, exception 1 or 2 bills. This helps them predict their costs and their cash flow well into the future because, again, they know what all of their costs are. They know exactly how much they need to pay. Therefore, they know exactly how much money they need to make every month to cover the cost of their fees. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's just, as I said before, it's knowing what all of our wholesale costs are so that we can then put in our margin, put in our cream, so we can then charge and make money back on top of that. And lastly, the invoicing, the payments front. The ideal scenario is that it's upfront prior to the value delivery. So it's in a fixed fee scenario, there's an exchange of risk between you and your client. You've fixed the price of your service based on the information that you've been provided by the client. As such, you're risking potential fee blowout if the scope of work has been misunderstood, In exchange, you risk not being paid at all. So you need to mitigate that risk by having your client enter a pre-authorized payment agreement at the start of your relationship so you can collect those payments automatically. Simply explaining the exchange of risk in a mature business conversation should be enough for the client to understand the reason why you have this process in the first place. Because the question I always get, and Matt, I'm sure you get it as well, how do I get my clients to bill me up? Like, why would they want to let me bill them up front? And say, well, yeah, but why would you want to bill them after you've done the work? And let's pretend maybe they fly off and go to Mexico and they never pay you for the stuff that you've done. Like, that sounds crazier than not putting that in place first. So you think about it from your own sense. I get it. Clients might get put off by that. But at the same point, can you afford to run a risk of a business where you let your clients dictate when they pay you? Because that's what you're doing. When you let a client say, oh, well, you know, I'll send you the invoice and you should pay me within 7 days, but there's nothing in place to stop you from not paying me within 7 days, except for my team to call you, my debtor team to follow you up, which is a very bad scenario, which doesn't end well generally. Or we'll just take your billing details up front. Once we've done the work, we'll let you know, we'll bill you within 7 days of that invoice, whatever it may be. It's all about risk. It's all about protecting you and allowing your firm to not worry about debtor days, processing your client fees, all that.
The client has cost certainty.
Yeah, the client, again, they know how much they're up for. It's really important. And again, we're going to focus and dive more into this as we go. Let's press on.
Press on. So another poll, just make sure everyone's awake. Not that first section wasn't riveting.
No, riveting.
So we'll launch this poll, and we're actually going to get a sense of how would you describe your current pricing model. So the options are hourly or time cost billing, fixed fee, mix of both, value pricing, or maybe you're just starting out and you're not quite sure what you're going to do yet. So thanks for voting. We'll keep that open for another 5 seconds or so. Yeah, as suspected, most of the responses seem to be mix of both. I'm guessing a lot of your older historical clients are still on an old hourly based pricing plan. So that definitely makes sense, but we'll just close out this poll.
It makes sense to me. A lot of the stats say that everyone's trying to do a mix of both. I think we've been talking about it for a couple of years, if not longer now. Everyone's trying to do a bit of everything. And I think at the end of the day, like, the whole point is that you're just getting paid for your services. You run a business that works, and you've got food on the table and everything's covered. So if you're that person that that is you doing hourly billing, and it's worked for you so far, like, I get it, I understand. Everything we're talking about today is trying to help you move into, we want to grow and scale that business. Realistically, you can't do that with hourly billing unless you're going to hire more staff. That's the real simpleness of it, yeah? And as we start to, again, as the automation kicks in with all this technology, your hourly billing, your hourly time spent on things will decrease. So again, it's just trying to make sure that you're creating a sustainable business. That's the real opening point as to why we think it's worth moving away from it. Some people still do a mixture of both because they just don't know how to price some things, and again, that's okay. It takes time to work through what that looks like. So diving into the fundamentals of building monthly service packages, we're going to follow the premise like this. So there are many valid and proven ways that you can approach your pricing services. So what we're about to present is simply one option that you can use. The reason why we're presenting this option is twofold. Firstly, it's simple, and secondly, because it's been proven, it's worked, and we've got the case studies to prove it. This is the exact process that, as I mentioned before, Guy with Interactive Accounting, they used with their fixed fee practices. They used to price their services, and again, as I said, the results have been through the roof. They're a multi-million-dollar firm. They're cloud only. They picked their niche. They did all the right things that we're still talking about and are quite popular in the headlines of accounting today. It's important to remember that the success or failure of the pricing approach is always going to lie, in the constant review and the fantastic execution. So at the end of the day, this is on how you deliver it and roll it out with your clients. So as much as it's easy for us to blame our tools sometimes, but a good tradesman doesn't blame his tools. You blame the execution. So if you've had troubles with this in the past, my feedback is just to come back and really review, how did you deliver it? How was it received? Did it work? Did it not? If it didn't, why not? These are all the questions I would ask. When things don't work for me, I ask a thousand questions to figure out why, and then to figure out, okay, well, how do we make it work? What do we need to do to make it work? So the first step in this process is to look at your current clients and start figuring out your cohort. So I first looked at this and go, what is a cohort analysis? Let's talk about that. So just quickly, cohort equals a group whose members shares one or more similar characteristics. So we want to look at your clients and break down the commonalities. So what do you do for 90% of each of your cohorts? So again, if I rephrase that, because cohort's not one word that I've seen a lot in the last little while, what do you do for 90% of your group of clients that is the same? So you're going to have a group of clients maybe, and this is where the niche side of it comes in. If you've got 20 builders, there's going to be 20 builders where 90% of the work you do for those 20 are all going to be very, very, very similar. So what we want to do is identify these groups, identify these cohorts. So think about the basics. You've got financial statements, tax returns, etc. You've got additional variables delivered on a regular basis. So sales tax, returns, payroll management, management of meetings. And then the other side of it is what software are you using within each cohort. So this is where when you pick a niche, and let's say you pick an industry, and I've already used builders, so let's go with it. You might identify apps that work really well for that specific niche. Matt, you guys do a bit of work with builders, yeah? Construction.
Yeah, absolutely. We can get into that a little bit later, but part of my initial calls with advisors is finding out what niches that they support, right? And I can tailor, my product demo and show them parts of our product that will be particularly of value to them, right? Yeah. So absolutely.
And it's okay to have more than one niche. Some people like Trent, I've got more than just builders. I've got more than just hospitality. My rule of thumb is just you market your niche out, but then you might accept in whoever you come to. You might have people coming in saying, oh, well, we only work with creatives, but I'm a builder. Will you still take me on? It's like, yeah, look, we can still work with you. That's not a problem, but we market aggressively out to that creative industry because we want to be known as a specialist in that field. So yeah, again, these are the things to think about. Identify your groups and your cohorts, and we want to identify the commonalities. What are the similar things we are doing for every group? So we start to break that down. Now I'm going to go real slow on this one so that we can identify it. So when we start to identify our cohorts, here's an example of what that table might look like. So again, feel free to screenshot this part specifically. Build this table yourself in your own firm so you can identify exactly what these commonalities are. Again, I'm going to go slow here because I want you to really take this in. This is literally part of the how. What we're showing you here is part of the how you identify your cohorts, your groups, your commonalities, so that we can start to really identify and build scalable services, okay? So on the screen, you can see we've got across the top our monthly, our quarterly, our annual clients. We then look at the core services we're delivering in each of those. So we've got our bookkeeping, training support, update and deliver training manuals, monthly data report. That's monthly core clients. We then push into our quarterly, and you can see what's there. We look at the software we use to deliver for our monthly, quarterly, annual clients. And then you identify the add-on services that you may need to deliver for monthly, quarterly, and annual clients. Hopefully this is all making sense so far. Okay, as I said, screenshot it. So the add-on side of it at the bottom, these essentially could be offered to any group, any cohort, but some align more naturally with monthly. For example, things like payroll. Ultimately, what we want to start to see is patterns of services that become part of that core package. The services your clients must take and the add-on services that will help your clients demonstrate additional value very easily for each of your cohorts or your groups. Cool. So how do we do that? How do we line all the cohorts to a monthly package? So firstly, what additional services can be delivered to quarterly, annual clients? How do we get them to pay monthly? Because that's the trick, right? You get a lot of people that, you might only see once or twice a year. How do we get them to be on a more fixed value? And I think my friend that I mentioned before is actually a really good example. They only do BAS lodgements and individual returns. There's no other work that gets done by that accountant. So it's like, well, how do we get them into a monthly package that they find valuable? And the billing frequency, as we point out at the bottom here, is separate to the delivery frequency. So going back to the original business model components, we discussed the notion of aligning all our clients to a monthly value delivery. So what we need to now ask ourselves is, what additional value are we going to deliver to these clients? Yeah, that's going to help them move into monthly pricing. This is the question. This is what we want to start to figure out. So the alternative approach is to simply split the annual fee down to a monthly fee, talk through the benefits of freeing up cash flow while still delivering services on a quarterly, annual basis. So as I said before, BAS lodgements are done quarterly. We do our individual returns as well, and that's it. But we want to get that, rather than paying $2,000 at the end of the year, let's do it in a monthly side of it, okay? Let's press on.
Sounds simple enough.
Yeah, it's simple enough. So we want to use the cohort to calculate a baseline price using the commonalities in the groups. So let's actually get into this a bit more. We're looking at the pricing side of it. So we've identified our cohorts. You've taken the screenshot before, you've built out your table, you've built it all in, and identified the services that will make up the core package. So it's time to determine what it takes to deliver the service. So you start listing out all the deliverables, the key tasks that help you reach those deliverables. In this instance, we see that time is still critical to pricing out your services, and it's made up of some critical factors. Firstly, who is performing specific duty and what is their charge out rate? The charge out rate is impacted by external factors, such as where you're located, internal factors such as level of expertise, and each role provides in delivering the service. And then secondly, or from that, we said, well, how long will it take on average to complete that service? So again, as I said before, if we start figuring out what our wholesale rates are, our fixed costs, we can start to work through it.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, this might be a silly question, but like, what if I don't know these numbers?
Yeah, and that's okay. It's you know, this is the big thing, right? You don't need perfect data to do a lot of this. A lot of it's going to come down to that gut feel at first anyway. So this is all going to feel really freaking scary. And by this point, if I haven't lost you, I'm so glad you're here still. If I haven't lost you, this is going to feel really tough. It's a muscle that you've never had to use before. But like we know, as we use all muscles and we break them and we bend them, they get stronger. So you have to put it first. It's your best guess on how long you think things should take. Of course, every client's different. So again, you're not going to find two clients that are always the same. So don't worry too much. Instead, focus on the averages. Focus on it's around about this amount of time. You might do a bank rec for one client with 200 transactions and then a bank rec with another client with the same amount. One takes 10 minutes, the other takes an hour. So my best guess is, put it in at sort of 30 to 40 minutes. That's your average. That's your best guess. The really important thing going forward is you just start to track some of this. So, we talked about don't measure your time for billing clients. Maybe you're using time to measure your productivity, just so you know what your fixed wholesale cost is. Yeah, we're doing it so we can measure exactly what that looks like, so that we know. And you might only do this for the next month or two and then stop doing that altogether, because you know what your averages are. This is just so we can get our averages of time in place, so that we can put our rate attached to that, so that we know what we want to start charging out to our clients. Okay. Of course, you'll want to ensure, explain that, why the time went over, so you can understand what needs to change next time. So if you do find that one client is, 10 minutes, the other is an hour, we want to investigate and say, wait, why is it taking us longer? Why is this client 10 minutes? Why is that one 60 minutes? And then from that, again, we start to figure out and we optimize and we start to automate and systemize. That's what we kind of keep talking about. But we need to understand that a problem exists before we can go on and then solve that problem. So the final step is to ensure you've accounted for your fixed costs at the required to deliver the service. So the example on the screen, there are two fixed costs: the filing fee, the accounting software subscription, because this is an annual fee that we're being built out. We've multiplied the monthly subscription fee by 12 to ensure you've covered the total cost of the subscription. So, you're going to need to repeat this process for each cohort's core package offering, as well as your add-on services. But once you've got to this point and you say to a client, okay, well, we're going to prepare your financials, do your accounting support, do your accounting software, and if that's all built into something like Practice Ignition or whatever system you're using, then you can start to build these fees out automatically accordingly based on a fixed fee. repeatable processes, and we know exactly who's responsible for them, which means we know what our capacity looks like. So the more we can delegate out to other people outside of our seniors and our partners and so forth, the more we can better plan out the services that need to be done on a monthly, quarterly basis. So, you know, as we sort of said, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry if you can't figure out the exact details. Don't worry about your overages and underages on every client. Just work on the averages. That's the key winning word for today. The averages.
That's like a life goal of mine.
Life goal.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Just be average.
That's it.
Good segue. So the law of averages, counting the over and unders by. So it goes without saying that there are going to be clients that have needs that fall far outside our core stack of services. So you make sure you remove these from, you know, your calculation of services. So develop a standard stack of apps that dictate your workflow. If a client is coming on board for bookkeeping, they absolutely have to use, you know, automation receipts type systems like Hubdoc. Hubdoc makes, you know, your bookkeeping scalable. It's easy. It's fetching things automatically. It starts to simplify the way that you do everything to do with data automation. So then we start to look through it all. Again, just going through the points, regularly review your service bundles, develop a standard tech stack, constantly optimize your system so that, we're encouraging that we're getting more efficiency from each client, okay? Remove your outliers, so be sure to charge appropriately for them. And then again, as you keep doing this, profits will increase per service in the long run. As you optimize all of your clients, you will make more money on them in the second 6 months as opposed to what you made from them in the first 6 months. And that's what we're really starting to come around. I like that we're heading this way with what we're talking about, because this is what it's all about. So the first 3 to 6 months is going to be figuring out who this client is and how you solve and systemize everything. The second 6 months, we start to figure out, you know, now that we've optimized them, we're actually starting to reap the reward of all the systemization that we have, in fact, put in place. So again, example, feel free to screenshot this part. Arrive at a marketable price while factoring in appropriate margin, considering you know, your closest competitors. So I mean, I'm not always a big fan of comparing things to what your competitors charge, because they've got different fixed costs to what you've got in the fixed costs. So for me, I think, you know, this needs to be based on you, what you need to hit, what your goals are as a firm. Because as soon as we start looking over our shoulders to what everyone else is doing, we lose sight of what it is that we're actually trying to achieve. Yes, it's important to understand that if you're losing clients to other firms and price is that particular factor, then you might consider that particular service specifically that you want to compete on. But then you might try and figure out other ways to add value to that conversation to increase your revenue earning potential in that scenario. But this is an example of an annual compliance package, all the services, the time, the rate, the cost, and then what that cost breaks down to into a monthly figure. Okay, so again, screenshot it, take some time to just think about it, talk about it with your team. Okay, but this is what a compliance package should look like for you and your firm. And you can see we put a 30% margin in there, so the total for per annum is 3,113. Monthly it's 259. Which means the marketable, and that's our wholesale. I keep talking about wholesale. That's our wholesale. Our marketable price, $4,000 or $340 per month, and this is everything that client gets within that. So it's the software, it's the lodgements, it's the financials, it's audits, reviews, it's everything. Okay, so if you can display all that value and say, cool, we're going to do all of this for the year for $340 a month. Like it?
Makes sense.
I like it. So this comes down to individual clients and, you know, the work they're bringing in. So considerations for your variables in recurring services. So bookkeeping and payroll are examples of services that vary depending on the number of staff and everything else that goes along with it. So, you know, your bookkeeping pricing is also determined by number of transactions and so forth, right? So let's dive into that a little bit. Consider using a tiered approach is the feedback that we kind of all put together. So if you've got, you know, monthly payroll for up to 10 employees per month, and then bookkeeping where you're reconciling up to 150 transactions per month. And that just sort of sets a clear barrier that if they go over 150 in a month, well then, okay, well this month the price actually may increase. or as you employ more staff, you may actually have to wear other fees, but it means that you're really upfront with your client on exactly what they're getting for the right amount. It's not, oh yeah, we'll do your payroll, or yeah, we'll do your reconciliations and it'll cost an unlimited amount. I mean, you don't go, and buy, I don't know, like think about anything where you have to buy it on a monthly basis. It's not like you get unlimited. Yeah, we're not at Pizza Hut anymore getting the works, or I get unlimited ice cream because I know I got better value out of that than they did. That doesn't exist anymore, right? That's just not the world we live in. Mind you, I don't eat that much ice cream anymore, I swear. So how you arrive at these numbers is determined by the types of clients you service. This is coming back to you. This is going to go back, identify your groups or your cohorts. You're going to love that word by the end of this, your cohorts. Identify the type of clients you work with, what the average number of payroll is, in transactions, so forth, and go from there. Once you've determined the tier or the ceiling, ensure you also price out your add-ons for that as well. So if you go over 150, you might bill it out in blocks of 50, blocks of 100, whatever it may be. So it's not that they're locked into a new monthly fee forever. It's just that whilst they've got more than what they're agreed upon, that price will be X. I think it's important to just call that out when you're having the conversation. Anything you'd like to add on that?
No, I mean, that makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah.
It kind of really simplifies how you break out those cohorts, right?
Yeah.
And what to think about when you do.
So we're using Sea Change Accountants and Advisors as an example. Also a legendary practice ignition customer, just throwing it out there. We think they're great. But when we interviewed them and talked about this and looked at how they do it and what they build it out, first of all packages include monthly bookkeeping, referring to the fact that they don't offer any frequency longer than monthly. It's important because they are leveraging the cloud application solutions to provide real value. So you've got accurate data in the books, means you've got accurate real-time information. If you don't have accurate bookkeeping, then all that real-time reporting and fun, futuristic, psychic stuff we talked about is actually worthless and goes out the door. The other point to point out is that they have caps on their payroll. So up to 10 employees with additional fees for anything that falls outside the defined scope. We think it's an interesting and compelling way to price because, again, clients know exactly what they're up for, and you can start to display the value between each package. So the other thing I've seen on some websites, they actually call out what they want all of their clients to come in on. So if you figure out how much do I want my clients to, how much do I want my monthly recurring fee to be per client, then build a plan around that. So if you want $200 per month to be the average plan that your clients come in on, then make that your middle package. Because I think if you read into the pricing psychology, most people go for the medium. I know when, again, I hate to think everyone thinks I like fast food too much, but McDonald's, I always get a medium because the small too small, the large is too large, and I get stuck into a medium. It's the way we think. When I get a coffee, again, I need a big coffee. Yeah, I need
too much coffee.
I had too much yesterday. But we start to define the value between each one, right? So this is what we're doing here. We've got our small bookkeeping, which is it's the hands-off stuff. We've got the bookkeeping and the payroll. We play a more active role in your business. And then you've got the works. We've got everything under the sun. You're that kind of business owner that doesn't want to do a damn thing. We are your accountants and advisors. We'll take all of that for you for $350 a month, and you can see absolutely everything in that list.
It goes back to that kind of transparency and cost certainty thing.
Correct.
Right? It's everything to a business owner.
It is, and the whole point of the back end is that you systemize all of this. You've got clear systems and processes in place that help you deliver all of this, so that you are actually making a good margin on all of these services. Oh, look at that. Just segue and everything. Mm-hmm. Cost and margin to scale service bundles. So again, we want to review the cost and margin as you grow. So snapshot this, everyone. Take a screenshot again.
So, I mean, we've discussed some of them, but what are other ways you think you can increase margins? I mean, you added the 30% on there, but what are actual ways to do this?
Yeah. Well, look, so in this example on the screen, we've got the product cost has stayed the same. However, the scenario, sound like in New Zealand, there are scenarios where the software you're using will get cheaper. So, as you add more clients on. So, for example, if it's the QuickBooks Pro Advisor program, the Xero partner program, the Hubdoc partner program, whatever it may be, the more clients you add, the cheaper your subscription gets. And again, we do the same thing in Practice Ignition. The more proposals and active clients you add, the cheaper it gets for you to use certain software. So the more you use certain software, the cheaper you get. Therefore, your rates will get better on that particular scenario. You might be in you might have an office space and you might have spare desks. You might start to hot desk those out to clients, other businesses, whatever it may be. Actually, great example. We do that here in Sydney. We lease our desks out to Hubdoc and Spotlight, and it works out well because Practice Ignition means they get cheaper rent as a result. But this is one way to help minimize what your fixed costs are. So there's a lot of different ways that you can improve your margin, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the fact that you need to sell more to your clients or that you need to get more clients on. It could just be in every other fixed cost that you have. So my tip here is to review all of your costs every 6 months, year on year, and figure out, well, how do we actually reduce them, which will then help improve our margin on all the clients that we are working with. Make sense?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Good. So yeah, review your cost and margin as you grow. As I said, every 6 to 12 months, make sure you're focusing on efficiency. Can we bold that next time? As you add more clients, your costs will decrease. As you improve your processes, your time cost comes down. Review your costs regularly, change your prices annually, which means review your clients, have a conversation with them, understand what the opportunities for more revenue is every single year. That is something you need to do, have to do. Some clients, I actually had some pricing experts in the US I spoke to, and they said every 12 months, they cancel all of their agreements with their clients, regardless. Every single one gets their agreement canceled, and they re-engage them for a brand new scope of services. They lose about 20% per year. That's fine because they bring another 20% in. And the idea is that forces every single client to understand what are our goals and our opportunities, what value are we delivering as a firm to you for the next 12 months. So if you want to go hardcore, I would encourage you to consider doing something like that because it forces you to focus on what's important for both you and your clients. And this is what your clients will love you for. And this is actually what makes you stand out compared to any other accountant or bookkeeper out there in the market. You're forcing them to focus on what's important to them. And that's why I like it. Add additional value where you can so that you can increase your fees. So again, if you're meeting with them regularly, then you've got the opportunity to add value, which means you're earning more money. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems daunting, but I think that,
but worth it.
Yeah, worth it. Why would you get into this business if you weren't actually interested in helping a business grow, right?
Yeah. Yes. The role of value pricing.
So, question from me, might be dumb.
I like it.
But what's the difference between fixed and value pricing?
So, put it simply, like in one simple, easy statement, value is bespoke. It's custom. It's a custom fixed fee. So you're my client, you walk in the door, a custom bespoke fixed fee based on your scenario, that's value pricing. Pricing is determined by what the client is willing to pay, that's value. They perceive that value to be what you provide, and they're either happy to pay for it or they're not, okay? So when you value price, you still want to factor in all of your efficiencies, your time costs, and all the additional margin type variables. One of the biggest differences is you've got the 3-option value pricing. So again, you think about Apple, you think about coffee scenarios like Starbucks or whatever it may be. Present your 3 options up front. What we see with a lot of people implementing value pricing is that instead of changing the core packages and add-ons, they're changing the types of services that are being delivered. So rather than saying here's 3 boxes that you have to fit in, it's saying, well, look, here's the services and let's figure out what these services should be based on who you are and where you're at in your business. Bookkeeping example, in a fixed pricing model, we're saying if you come on board as a bookkeeping client, you have to use a cloud accounting solution and you might have to use something like Hubdoc. That's the only way we're going to work with you because we need to focus on efficiency. If you let clients come in with all of their tools and all their different bits and pieces, it's going to throw your efficiency out of whack, which is then going to screw up your efficiencies and your margins and all the good, glorious stuff we've talked about so far. So really important that you deliver and develop your core tech app strategy because that is part of how you make your margin because you've got consistency in the service services that you are delivering. So in value pricing, you might have a bronze, silver, gold, a 1, 2, 3, small, medium, large. The baseline package is around your transactions. The second is around the reconciling plus your apps and software. The third package is that we'll come in and do everything for you, or we'll do it all remote. We'll code it, we'll scan it, we'll do everything. The problem with that is that it's not a scalable way, because you now have 3 different processes that are all basically the same service. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, the hug rule, and I think actually if you go back just one, you can see Heather's little tweet here. Businesses begrudgingly pay for compliance work because, cutting off my screen, because they don't necessarily recognize the benefits of accurate numbers. So shout out to Heather. We think you're awesome, Heather. Further into the hug rule, value pricing is ideal for project work that arises from the amazing work you do when you're delivering your fixed fee recurring services. So in this case, project work refers to any service, typically non-recurring, that can lead to a positive change in the direction of your client's business, i.e. the types of services you deserve a hug for. Think about it. When was the last time your client hugged you when you did their tax return? They didn't. And I imagine if they did, we'd be a happier, more thriving industry of emotional, happy people. So this is what we want to start to change. We want to impact our clients in a way that I'm not suggesting that you should measure it based on the amount of hugs you get or don't get, but we want them to be satisfied and, really feeling like you've gone above and beyond. So much so that if they wanted to, they would hug you. That's what we're getting at, right? Whew.
I'll give you a hug if you want.
I need one. It's been a long end of year. So the important part, how to have the value conversation. Now, the key word for me on this is communicate. Communication, words, relationship. It's all the same. So communicate before anything changes. Do not just send an email to a client saying, hey, letting you know your fees are increasing. Thanks for everything. We'll see you next year. No, do not. Anything, communicate 90 days in advance. So if you are going to send an email, I'd highly recommend that you call that client as well. Be personable. Remember, you're a person, you work with other people. Humans work better with humans, especially when impact and changes are going to occur. Allow your firm and your business to go to the cloud, move towards real-time financials. So these are the examples of what you'd be putting in your messaging. Maintains profitable cash flow, positive relationship, no surprise bills. So this is talking about moving into fixed fee models, right? So just in case I've gone too quick or fast there, the communication is about why they need to stop being billed the way they've been doing it for the last however long, and why we want to start doing it in a fixed value scenario. And this is what we want to be including in that messaging. Again, I recommend using a phone call as well. But if you've got 1,000 clients and that's a little bit hard, I'd still recommend trying to make it as personal as you can, but put it in the email. So this is what we're doing. By moving into the cloud, by moving into a fixed fee model, it's going to allow us as a firm, you as a business, to actually have real-time data, which means you're going to make real-time decisions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We then move into maintaining profitable and cash flow positive relationships. We then mean you've never got a surprise bill. That's probably the big one. Clients don't want surprises. They don't love a surprise. They want to know what they're up for. And we've talked about it throughout, but this is how we start to make sure we have a positive impact. It's about communication. If I feel like if you think I've said that word too much, it's because I'm really serious about it.
I think it's really great advice, like relating this back to software companies and software as a service. It's good advice for them, right? There's probably a laundry list of SaaS companies who haven't done this in a perfect way.
Can you imagine if you got a random email saying, hey, your price is going up for no reason at all?
Exactly.
That would frustrate the hell out of me. Keep communicating while you're determining your prices. So share your plans, work together with your client to figure out which one makes sense to them.
So how do we de-risk clients paying less though?
Great question. I think, as you can sort of see on the screen, we talk about, part of moving to fixed fees is to be transparent. So when I talk about transparency, I'm still talking about communicating. So it's about openly, honestly communicating with your client so that they understand exactly what they're getting and how it's working. It's also really important that you need to understand, have all of your systems, processes, and margins in place on the back end. That way, you're not going to be paying any less. If anything, like the clients should just pay the same. If you got clients you're really scared of, like you think they're going to freak out, just do the same thing for 12 months on a monthly basis, and then year on year you can look to add in more value as you optimize those clients. Some of the clients might reduce fees for, but again, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry about how, like, if you've got 100 clients and 10 of them are paying less for whatever reason it may be, it's okay. You're going to make that money up in other places. But lastly, like, ask your clients a question. Do they have any queries? Do they have anything they want to know more about? That's a big part of what we need to establish. Yeah. So, and then the communication after the transition. So it's, you know, we've 90 days up, we've said, okay, we're going to roll these changes out. This is why we're going to do it. Now we want them to approve it. Again, this is something where practice ignition is fantastic. So you've spoke to them about it. You've given them a proposal. They can sign off the engagement letter. Then their fees will automatically start to come out of that every month or quarter based on the conversation that you've had. And then set regular reviews with your clients. As I said, this is your revenue opportunity. It's not based on hiring more staff to do more work. It's based on understanding what else can you do for your clients. Re-engage them every 12 months. You've heard my story before. You could either, again, you probably won't, but you could cancel all of them every 12 months, which forces them all to re-engage with you, or you can openly catch up with them 90 days out from that period and say, hey, I want to speak to you within the next 3 months to understand what we're going to do with you together moving forward. And then we re-engage them, new engagement letter.
Yeah, I mean, practice ignition makes sense.
Oh, honestly, the only reason this is the reason we exist. We exist for this specific reason. This is what we were built out of. So yeah, again, if it sounds like a shameless plug, that one actually really is. Like, this is exactly what we were built for. So
underhand pitch too.
Yeah, like, I appreciate that. So scaling up and becoming more profitable. This is the fun part. We all want to do this, right? So the key thing, I've talked about it a little bit, the key thing to understand is what we call a monthly recurring revenue. So this is understanding what is that repeatable amount of money that you're getting every single month automatically for the services that you are delivering to your clients. So again, traditional growth model, before, you know, there was no incentive to grow as your costs grow with you, because again, it was based on hiring more staff, which meant costs go up. So, you know, and that's not what we want. There's also no incentive to be more efficient. It does, you know, because if we did things faster, it meant we were getting paid less, and then our profit margins were typically a static thing. So
yeah, it's just to kind of add to that. I saw a great tweet from thought leader Tim Hoopman the other day that said, "Charging by the hour punishes me for being good."
Yes.
Right, and that just kind of encapsulates this whole webinar very well.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's penalising us for doing good work. So again, you know, we love our graphs here. We love a good graph here. The traditional growth model, what does it look like? So again, you look at your costs. They happen in a certain time of the year, but your revenue growth also happens in different times of the year. It's not sustainable. It means you're busy in some points, you're not busy in others. We don't have steady cash flow. It's not great. Like if you're a business owner, like if you were advising your business owners and you talk to them about cash flow every single, you know, day, week, or whatever, you wouldn't traditionally say that an accounting firm in the past had great cash flow, you know, because it was all happening at certain points of the year, and that's what we want to get away from. So we move into the next. So when we talk about this monthly recurring revenue growth model, and this is again similar to what a SaaS company would use. So again, if you're using a QuickBooks or a Xero or a Hubdoc or whatever, they all run on a monthly subscription basis, right? Because it's all about cash flow. The reason you want to do that is it's now going to give you incentive to grow as your costs will eventually plateau out. As we said, you minimize what your fixed costs will be, more incentive to become more efficient, and then it then gives you the ability for your profit margin to grow. That's why we like MRR growth models. Again, with the graph, you can see here again with the line, I'm just going to call out what's on the screen. Projects should fund your growth activity. So you're going to have your monthly recurring fees, and that will just build month on month as you get more clients. And then any project-based work you get, this actually becomes your cream. This is kind of the fun extra stuff, the fun cash injections that you didn't expect. That's what our project-based billing is all based around. You can see the revenue growth keeps going up, but our costs stay the same. So it means we're making more money month on month on month as you bring on more and more clients into these, these cohorts and so forth. which means our profits start to really jump, and that's what we want. So as you streamline, you focus on efficiency and driving cost of doing the everyday down, constantly boosting profits over time. That's the MRR, monthly recurring revenue growth strategy.
Perfect.
Cool.
That was all very enlightening. So we're gonna do one final poll, just to get a sense of the accounting platforms that everyone is using. I'm already seeing that MyHub is not listed there as it should be, but I'll take that as an other.
Yeah, that'll be other.
That as another way to everyone to respond there. Just kind of get a sense of the platforms you're using. As suspected, majority are on Xero, which is great. Other, okay.
We've got a few others, few Xero,
Yeah.
70%, mostly Xero, some QuickBooks Online, a few Sage, few QBD. That's QuickBooks Desktop for those playing at home.
Okay, thanks for answering that. We'll just close that out and share results really quickly.
Cool. So you can see, yeah, majority of people here are big on the Xero use, and that's fine. Everything we've talked about today is applicable to that. Any online product is going to help in that, but if you remember, we talked about your tech stack. So it's about understanding and identifying what your tech stack per client may be. It's up to you whether you want to go all in on one or you want to do, multiples. My big thing is making sure that all the apps and the add-ons that you use sync in with the cloud ledgers that you're using. That's probably the big thing I would always recommend. But whether you do that as an all, we're going all in on Xero or all in on something else, that's completely up to you and your preference. So
yeah, if you're gonna promote the usage of platforms, you should know how to use it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Be a wizard at it is what I'd say. Be an expert at it. So cool. We're going to give you 3 little takeaways right now. For the session. To put them simply, align the 3 components of the cloud business model. So value, cost, invoicing, and payments. So you want to, by focusing on monthly delivery. So we want to focus these 3 things into monthly based KPIs and metrics that we can track. Don't sweat the small stuff. Figure out your averages. Work through the averages. Yeah. And thirdly, constantly review your prices, your processes, and your tech stack. Importantly, because tech stacks can change all the time. There's so many new apps in the market every single day. I like to think I'm a bit of a connoisseur with these things and knowing what's what in here. And even I get surprised by the amount of new things that come in all the time. And lastly, but not leastly, we're here to help. Remember, we are here to help. We've done this session today because we understand there's a need for people in the market to talk through and work through this sort of stuff. So if you want help with it, you can reach out to me and Matt on Twitter. You can get us on email, whatever it may be. Engage with us and we will help you get this sorted.
Awesome. So yeah, one of the ways we can help is by shamelessly promoting our products.
Nice one.
No, but honestly, Trent mentioned it briefly earlier, but what we do here at Hubdoc is we automate document collection. So we can actually fetch recurring bills and statements from banks and other online suppliers. So in the vein of getting you immediate access to client financial data, Hubdoc gets you immediate access to data in the form of source documents. So, source documents do remain the foundation of compliance. So we think we're really automating a lot of your compliance work and, saving both you and your client a lot of time doing mundane administrative tasks. So if you are interested in that, come on over to app.hubdoc.com/sign-up. Sign up for your very own lifetime free Hubdoc account. All advisors are entitled to one. You can play around with Hubdoc, see how it works, get a lovely phone call from one of our sales team members, and once you love it, start adding clients and really just start supercharging your practice. And as we were saying earlier, saving you time working on clients so you can efficiently scale.
Yeah. And just coming in, anyone that's not using Practice Ignition, or if you'd like to learn more about Practice Ignition, I'd encourage you jump to practiceignition.com. You can check out part of the website there, but book in for a demo. Chat to us about what the system does and how it works. What I've articulated so far is that we help you recover all of these monthly recurring costs. So when you try to position your services and fees to your clients, we do that in a digital way that allows you to collect all the fees automatically, which then syncs automatically into both QuickBooks Online and Xero, things like Workflow Max. If you're running on Workflow Max, we are the perfect complementary tool for that. So again, if you're that Workflow Max person, definitely chat out a trial with Practice Ignition, book in for a demo, and we would love to show you how we can streamline everything. My biggest little tip I'd follow on there is no downside to using Practice Ignition, because we will do all of your proposals engagements within 3 minutes. That's how quick it is to create and generate it. So if you've got taking you 30 minutes to an hour to do an engagement letter or a proposal for your clients, I guarantee you we'll get that done within 5 minutes to 10 minutes tops, meaning we're going to save you at least 10 to 20 grand a year worth of your time just in building proposals, not counting all the other fun, awesome stuff we do in between that. So again, anyone that jumps on board gets 50% off their setup and training. Jump on a demo, do a trial with us, come and chat to us. We'd love to help you streamline and be that awesome future-focused cloud firm that you want to be.
Amazing. So with that, we're gonna throw it to questions.
Q&A.
Also say thank you. That was fun.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Matt, and the team in Canada. You were amazing.
Yeah, Yusuf, I'm not sure if we had any key questions that couldn't be answered via the chat function, but if you had any to let us know about, we'd be happy to answer them.
Hey guys, that was really amazing. We do have a number of great questions in the chat.
Perfect. Okay.
I can see the second one. I think it's. Oh, go back down. Sorry. Yes. So Sally's asking us if the webinar is available later. You will receive a copy of this, Sally. We can't wait for you to watch the whole thing. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as you've enjoyed the last one. Dia, same thing. You're going to get this recording.
Yeah, I'll be sending me or a member of my team at Hubdoc will be sending you a follow-up recording of the webinar. So don't worry about that. As long as you've registered, you will receive the video. It'll be a YouTube link in the next day or two. Yeah,
cool. There's a question there from Paul. Well, Paul, I might take that one offline and just do it like one-to-one. It's just basically talking about, does PI allow price list approach to pricing proposals? The short answer is yes, we can do that. So you list out everything we've talked about today in terms of listing out your services with a rate attached to it. That's exactly what Practice Ignition does. So Paul, I'd encourage you to jump on and book in a trial and a demo, my friend, and we will be able to show you what this looks like. Yeah, thank you, Paul.
We have a question here from Eleanor. Do you still keep timesheets for managing internals rather than invoicing?
Yeah, that's kind of what we articulated in the middle, I guess. So we are saying that, if you're going to, I would use something like a T-Sheets, like a time tracking app. We're using it to measure the productivity. And again, we're only doing that whilst we figure out what our averages are per service. I'm not saying you should use them every single day, every single week for the rest of your life. I'm saying do it until you have figured out what the averages are for the services that you are offering.
Wonderful. And Hanbo has asked, what if what if the client requires service in addition and outside of the scope of the fixed fee billing? Do you just do it on an hourly basis? I think we might have covered a little bit of that.
Well, again, this comes back to depending on what the services are, because if you've listed out what are all the services that you do, then you should actually know what the average and the cost associated with that should be. So it's just a matter of issuing a new proposal with the new line of scope. These are all things that we manage inside Practice Ignition as well. I mean, you'd want to understand, why do you want to do it on an hourly basis if you've already got your services figured out? If you don't have your services figured out and you don't know all of this data, then that would be the only reason why I can imagine you're trying to do any form of hourly billing. But as I said, remember, every time you go to hourly billing, you're teaching your client to measure you on the time that you spend doing the work, which is incorrect. That's not what we want them to focus on. We want them to focus on the quality of work that you're producing and by when you completed it, not how long it took you to complete it. Don't sweat the small stuff, right? Don't sweat the small stuff.
Speaking of the small stuff, How do you, Carol is asking, how do you easily count the number of transactions without doing it manually?
It is a great question. I think it depends on the product and the platform you're using. You'll gauge pretty quickly. I think even if you measure it in your whatever bank feed you're using, you can just gauge it on the number of pages, number of tabs at the bottom. Again, you'll figure out, like, I asked a lot of bookkeepers, accountants to do like a health check. So you charge your client, $99 or $199 so that you can do a health check, so you can start to review and look at the amount of transactions that are listed either in the bank feed, on the bank statement. And again, Matt, you might be able to shed some more there.
No, I mean, in that Hubdoc can fetch the actual historical bank statement. So even if you are onboarding a new client, we fetch, bank, credit card, mortgage, and loan statements, as well as CSV files from any banking institutions. So, in a moment of downloading that CSV file, you can get a number of transactions they're doing on a monthly basis. Now, beyond using Hubdoc to get you that transaction data and allow you to calculate it, if you've been working on this client and building them hourly, you can go into their reconciled transactions historically in their zero file and find that information. So once again, if you're not going to be counting them one by one,
you can
probably download it to a CSV similar to Hubdoc and fetch transactions.
Like figure out the averages. Like if you go through it the first time, you'll understand exactly how many transactions are displayed on a page before it goes into a new page. So yeah, that's definitely what I would be worth checking out.
Nice. So Eleanor's asked, what she's finding is that it's easier to get new clients on a monthly basis, so converting them to kind of that fixed fees model. But how do you convert like current and historical clients? She's finding that a lot of her clients just see compliance as kind of the value and don't necessarily want to go on a monthly basis, although that's the future of her business.
Yeah. Again, this all comes back to the conversation communication piece. And before you even try to shift someone to a monthly fee, it's about actually understanding what is it that they want to get out of it. If all they want to get out of it is compliance, then you can only deliver to them what they value. So if all they're valuing is the compliance piece, then that's all you can charge them for. But that also means, do they actually know what other value you can add to their business outside of the compliance stuff? Do they actually know what that looks like? Some people have actually gone in and said, we'll do for 3 months, we're just going to do some management reporting with you, and we're going to sit down with you month on month to show you. Once you've done that for 3 months, they see the value and they've made decisions on it, then it's kind of almost saying, look, we can keep doing this, but it comes at this price. Yeah, it's trying to understand, it's so they know exactly what they're getting. So it's about the client needs to understand the value of what you're offering them, which comes generally through a conversation. You need to understand what they value and what they find important. Otherwise, you can't really sell them anything.
Right, and it's having those kind of customer success stories, right?
Yeah.
Because once you have those repeatable processes and you're able to deliver that, you can go to your other client segments.
So. We've got one more. One more, and we'll see if we get any others. We might do one more after this one, but let's see if this is the last one. From Janelle, when pricing one-off projects, some of them take vastly different amounts of time, example, like rescue work. Is this something that should also move to value or fixed fee pricing, or is it reasonable to keep it hourly priced?
Well, again, this, Janelle, it's a good question, but this also comes back to the variables part, right? So the variables might be the number of staff and the payroll, the number of transactions in the accounts, or it could even be the turnover. If you've got a $200,000 turnover business or a $1 million turnover business, then you would know and think that the differences are there. But again, if you keep charging it based on the time side of it, then that's all there. That's how they measure and budget out what their fees to you are. It's based on, we only want to do 10 hours this month. But if things get tough, it's like, well, I wonder if she can do less time, and start thinking on what else we could do. So it comes back to the variables that you're pricing out is what determines, is what will differ between the different sizes of business. So if you focus on the variables, you'll then be able to price them on a fixed service value base as opposed to an hourly basis.
And that would be for like one-off projects, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, really last question. from Brad. Is monthly invoicing sent out at the beginning or the end of the month as a best practice?
Oh, well, I mean, there's only a day or two between them, right? Between the end of the month and the start of the month, it's only a day or two, really. So it's up to you and how you want to bill it. I mean, it just depends on what your process is as a firm. Some people prefer one or the other. Some people prefer to send the invoices out at the start of the month and then they bill in the middle of the month. Again, it's your firm, your business, your process. Maybe you try and align it to when all of your bills come out. So if you know when all of your bills are starting to come out, then you know when you want to get all of your cash flow in the door.
Perfect. That was all throughout.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Yusuf. So if there's anything we didn't get to today, please feel free to ask us, in a follow-up email, via Twitter, give us a call.
Yeah, some of you have been tweeting at me already, and I appreciate that. But hit us up, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you see me, send me a message, ping me a note, or Matt. We're totally happy that you could join us today, guys. Thanks again for being with us.
Amazing turnout. So thanks again, and I look forward to speaking with many of you soon.